Your full name, please?
Edward Thomas of Asian.
And this interview is taking place where?
Bishop Kelly High School.
Okay. And
David Skinner's history class.
Thank you. And what are you here for? What's the purpose?
I come here every year to entertain Mr. Skinner's classes about Vietnam.
Where and when were you born?
I was born in Salina, Kansas, Smoky Hill Air Force Base, August 24th, 1949.
And what are the names of your parents?
Sam and Marge of Asian.
And your siblings, what are their names and genders?
I have 6 brothers and 2 sisters, starting with John, Fred, myself, Roxanne, Suzanne, David, Stevie, and Ricky.
Any of them in the military?
No.
What were you doing before you entered the service?
I was living in Seattle, Washington.
In what branch of the military did you serve?
U.S. Army.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
Drafted.
What happened when you departed for training camp during the early days of training?
I was scheduled to go to Fort Lewis, Washington, outside of Tacoma, and I was a platoon guide for the first 8 weeks of my training.
Do you recall the names of any of your instructors?
No,
Did you receive any specialized training?
just combat.
Where did you serve?
South Vietnam.
And what were the dates of your service?
March 12th, 1970 through May 3rd, 4th of 1971.
And what part of Vietnam did you basically operate in?
Central Highlands.
Did you see combat?
Yes.
If you were on the front lines, what were your duties?
I served as a point man. I did go to Bishop Kelly, 1967. Moved to Seattle in 1969, the summer of. Got drafted that summer. And like some other people, I tried a couple things I wasn't sure what was going on. Coming from Boise, Idaho, Vietnam really wasn't an issue. It's kind of over there, you don't know what it is. But I ended up going in. And I actually was very lucky. I actually had a good time. They do shave your head. And they put you through some pretty grueling stuff. If you think you're in pretty good shape, you might want to rethink that. But for some reason, on my 3rd day there, this guy puts me in charge of 55 kids. I say kids because they're mostly my age. And I was 19 at the time. And I never got to know why he did that. But it was good for me because I didn't do any KP. I didn't do forced marches. I had my own room. I had 4 guys that were my lieutenants, so to speak. I had guys that I would give favors to, and they would take care of cleaning my bed up and making it and doing the boot. It was a great gig. The second 8-week period is 4 months that you do this. And the first is just to re-indoctrinate you to their way of life. And the second is where you go in and you're given an MOS, which is a job function. And I don't know why, but mine was 11 Bravo, which is combat. And I didn't want to be in charge of anybody again, but they made me the cadence caller for the brigade, actually, which is, you have a platoon, which is a company. 4 platoons make a company. 4 companies make a battalion. 4 battalions make a brigade. So I was the guy that was out there, if you ever watch some war movies, and go left, right, dun, 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 dun. And that's what I did all day. I would keep these guys in step, and we would do these marches. Never slept outside. I slept in a train car with all the big boys. They're sloshing down sea rations. I'm eating Chinese food. It was just a great gig. Towards the end of my second cycle, the 8 weeks, we were supposed to go to Germany. And then they called us in at the very end and said, listen, we're giving you guys a week off, go home, be with your families. You're all going to Vietnam. So no reason was given. So came back to Boise. I'm one of 8 kids. I have 5 brothers and 2 sisters. So I waited till the end. Told my mother. I said, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to Vietnam, right?" So fast forward on the second week of March. I ended up landing in Vietnam the 12th of March, 1970. Crazy hot. You have no idea. You can't wrap your head around anything. I had no idea what I was doing there. It was just, all I knew it was hot, and there was just little people running around. I got assigned to a group of guys that were all from the South. It was the 1st and the 14th Golden Dragons. Everybody has a nickname, right? And what I did was I operated out of the Central Highlands, Pleiku, Anke, and we were assigned to search and destroy. So that means we'd go out every day and look for them and destroy what we could find, whether it be a human, a village, whatever it was. That was our primary purpose in life. There was different ways to do this. You have a rear base camp, which is big, where you could get real food, some downtime. We had forward operating bases, which were mostly choppers would come in, take you out for your combat missions. And then, so I probably spent, I don't know, 100 hours on a helicopter at least, which is a trip. I mean, I love them. I wish I could buy one, but we would just chopper into some place. Hopefully it was a friendly LZ landing zone. We just truck around. Well, when we got the orders to go to Vietnam, then we realized why, because the group I was assigned to primarily was one of the first groups to insert ourselves into Cambodia. And that was, I think I got into Cambodia April 24th. If my memory serves me right. And we were trying to cut off the flow of men and equipment coming into Vietnam, the North Vietnamese soldiers and stuff. That was probably one of the more trippy times of my experience in Vietnam, because we knew we were truly outnumbered, and we were actually, although Vietnam was a foreign place, we were truly in a foreign place. We didn't have that much, at least us, the ones on the ground, didn't have that much familiarity with what was going on. So I stayed there about, God, it seems like a month. When I got there, I had this really strange premonition that I'd be okay. My biggest concern was how to come back mentally strong, not just physically. Because, you guys are awfully young, but you may know some people or have talked to people or have seen on TV or whatever. A lot of people are pretty messed up. And that was the one thing that I was more concerned about, was how was I going to come back straight up and not sideways. And which leads me into my favorite part of this whole thing is, no matter what happens in life, get a boyfriend, first boyfriend, you break up, sucks. Your mom dies, your dad dies, your brother dies, your dog dies. Never be consumed by it. And I think that's unfortunately what happened to a lot of people. No matter what kind of experience you have over there, and you can't measure the degrees of severity. A dead person's a dead person, whether they're half of them's gone or not. It doesn't matter. If they're gone, they're gone. But you can't let that take over who you are. So no matter what happens in life, you can never lose that, because then you're going to morph into something that you may not like. And I know it's easier said than done, and I had the experience of Vietnam, which is going to toughen anybody up, but still, if you can always keep that in the back of your head, I think you'll be a better person for it. Do your mourning period, be sad, trash talk, whatever. Just don't be obsessed with it. Don't be consumed by it. Vietnam was part of the greatest emotional experience of my life. other than the bus ride to Pocatello. For some of you that may not know, we were on the death bus to Pocatello with this incredible female driver who actually got us locked in the bus, which you really can't do that. But it was about incredible temperature changes. It'd be 120 during the day, 70 at night, which 70 is really nice, but when you do a 50-degree swing, it's cold. You sweat profusely. You don't wear a t-shirt. You don't wear boxers. I mean, that stuff just rots off you. So you give that stuff up. If you like bugs, go to Vietnam. Go anywhere in Southeast Asia. You'll be in paradise. I mean, they have bugs that I had no idea could even exist. Monsoons would come. It's just constant rain, just solid sheets of water. We had to deal with race issues, so it's not bad enough we're there for combat, but then we have to deal with our fellow soldiers who at times felt like it wasn't their place to be there, which is, it's better said. You can just go Google that and research it, but it made it more difficult. Drugs were everywhere. Top quality stuff, dirt cheap. We didn't care if you did, let's say, pot in the base camps. That's your business. But if we caught you doing it in the bush, we'd shoot you. You can't have you on guard duty going, "What's up, dude?" It just doesn't work because you could cost somebody their life. It was a very zero tolerance policy. And it's kind of surprising when you first get there, but I kind of liked it because I meant these guys, I was with a very good group. They had a very high kill ratio, which means we took more than they took of us. 14 months, and then when I left Vietnam, I left the Army. They had a gig going that if you had less than 150 days when you left Vietnam, then you could exit the Army. So I left Vietnam. 12 hours later, I was stateside. 12 hours later, I was a civilian. So it was kind of a nice gig. So I really liked Vietnam. In fact, Dave and I were talking about Mr. Teacher of the Year for everything. A beautiful country, beautiful people, great food. The China Sea, some of the best beaches I've ever been to. It was a little tweaked because we were in combat, but it really is. That whole part of the world is beautiful. I didn't feel like I was fighting for my country. I didn't have a problem with being there. It's not so much I felt sorry for the Vietnamese people, but they're a very pacifist group who just wanted to exist, and the militant North didn't want that to happen. So I'm not one of those fighting for a bigger, greater cause. It's just that I saw what we were doing had value. And everyone I met over there was really nice. I mean, it's great. So maybe someday we'll get to go over there and we'll take pictures.
We're going. We're planning a road trip.
We're gonna.
And they're going to Vietnam.
We're looking for 2 baggage handlers, so any volunteers.
When you ask questions, make sure they're loud so we pick them up on the machine.
So let's just, did anybody have any questions?
We all got questions.
Isabel? Did you have a question?
Yeah. So like, how was it being away from your family? Like, did you miss?
Seriously, does anybody have a question? No,
A little louder, Isabel.
Yeah, is speaking to the camera. You're on camera. Yeah, it's tough. My dad was in the Air Force. We moved every 2 years, so my family was pretty much self-contained. 5 boys. We had our own team whenever we played sports. So we're pretty close. In fact, we're pretty close today. We all stay in contact. But the younger ones, there's 5 below me. I'm the 3rd oldest. How do you tell some 10-year-old kid that go to Vietnam, see you later? I mean, they had no concept of it. I kept in contact with them with audio tapes. Much simpler, easier to do.
You mean the little cassettes we used to use?
Yeah,
the small.
yeah, little cassettes. Oh, that's something I should bring sometime. But, you know, it was what it was. They didn't understand it. I didn't understand it. They just knew I went away. I don't think they do now, but at that point in their lives, there's quite a spread between us and our ages, by the way. I don't think they understood what Vietnam was. Really good question, Isabel. Another $2. Okay.
Me? Could you go back and like enjoy yourself on like vacation?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I would love to go back. And it's nuts, and I've said this before. When you're in Vietnam, they operated a lot of times underground in tunnels. I mean, they would build these fairly sizable rooms, and you know, we'd find a tunnel complex. We couldn't find the dirt. They didn't have backloaders and backhoes and all this stuff. So I don't know if anyone's going to tell me. Maybe your dad may know, but I want to know what they did with the dirt. I mean, literally tons and tons and tons of dirt had to be put somewhere. And you just can't, like, you know, sprinkle through your pant leg like those goofy war movies, the prisoner war camp. But I know I'd love to go back, and in fact, I hope we do. I got no problems. It's a really beautiful place. Some parts of it.
Questions?
Oh,
Nice and
Oh,
loud.
you were just stretching. Okay, what?
Nice and loud.
What do you got?
So even though you said you like to not let those things consume you, like how do you think that experience changed you as a person? Because it probably still did in some ways.
You know, but not in a bad. I think it made me more insightful. It made me look through the BS and see the real you. I think it teaches you to let go of the negative. And when you do that, your mind has much more ability to discover things and understand things. It's just an intense emotional experience that makes you appreciate stuff more. And I think if you keep it on the upside and you eliminate the downside, the negative aspects of that experience, I think you're a better person for it. So it's your mind, you know. I mean, you control it. So I can't make you mad. If you get mad, it's because you allow yourself to do it. I know that sounds crazy, but I mean, you either tune me out or you just go with it, and you just it's yours to control as you wish. So
I know when you grow up, you get in fights and you see people get hit with a rock or something, but I mean, what is it like, and I think everybody always wants to know the answer to this question, what is it like when somebody next to you who you've trained with and you know is shot and killed or wounded? What is that? I mean,
there's hardly any words. But you can't. You got to grieve and let it go. You can't be consumed by it. I mean, it's not to be cold, but it's devastating. I mean, you cry, you mourn, you wonder why. It makes you angry. You want to hurt people. But, you know, it can't always be that we shoot them. I mean, we knew some of us were going to get it. So it's...
Do you ever get over the nervousness of, like, I'm sure the first time you went into a firefight, it must have been, like, incredibly nervous, but I mean, after you're there 14 months, do you ever get over that, or are you scared every day?
No, you have to stay scared. You have to be pretty apprehensive. In fact, if you don't have contact, after a while, you get antsy. You want something to happen. The days just get too long. Adrenaline is phenomenal. You play sports, you do anything else, it's amazing what it does. The first firefight I was in was the first day I was there in the jungle. And my first reaction was, what the? And then you just boom. And then you just go until the adrenaline kicks back, and then you go, oh my God, what am I doing here? And that's kind of what it's like every time.
What are the three types of soldiers you've talked about before?
In my group, we had fighters, freezers, and runners. So the fighters would let the adrenaline take over, and they'd go after the bad guys. The people who freeze would just be frozen. I mean, they couldn't do anything. And then the runners, guys were so scared they would just, want to go take off back. They didn't want to face the combat, so. And I didn't have problems with that. My biggest concern was we had to identify who was who. Because I don't want you up front if you're going to run. I want you to put your ass back where it belongs, right? I was 17 when I got, no, I'd have been 18, just before I turned 19 when I got drafted. And I don't know if we look older or younger, but I look at these classes I'm in. You guys are only juniors, but I can't imagine any of you baby-faced, barely able to shave monkeys being except for maybe there's only, well, I'd take this dude in. I'd make him my tunnel rat. Perfect size neon socks.
Wish him a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, guys.
Questions? Let's get some more questions.
Yeah.
What was the first thing you did when you got home?
Went to see my brother, 2:30 in the morning. Just, I'm home. Yeah, big deal. That's why I spent 2 weeks in Seattle before I came back to Boise. So my parents, that was another thing, unbelievable. They knew it was a 1-year gig, but I stayed 2 extra months for a personal reason. But they had no concept. So I thought it'd be fun. Let's say I'll be home in July. Well, how's that possible? They had no idea. So I didn't tell them. So it was a surprise to my brother, and it was a bigger surprise to my parents. I just showed up at the house one day. Did you miss me? So that was that.
Ed's experience is incredibly unique because, as he said before, there was a provision in the Army that if you had less than 150 days to go when you got out of Vietnam, you were out of the Army, period. So he literally is in Vietnam at a base camp one day, and 48 hours later, he's downtown walking.
24 hours later.
24 hours later, he's walking the streets of Seattle as a civilian out of the Army. Today there's, they debrief, all that kind of stuff, but that transition must have been incredible.
Yeah, so I only spent, because I was pretty mentally with it. I only spent 19 months in the service. I was on hook for 5 more months, but they're not going to call me. Good luck finding me. 19 months. In and out, sweet gig. So.
Here's a question you've never been asked, it's on the sheet. Where were you when the war ended, and what were your thoughts when the war was finally over?
I was in Boise, probably working, married. There was another experience. Don't be consumed by it, okay, I'll let it go. It didn't surprise me. It was my gig. And it's just like this whole Vietnam phenomena, this veterans phenomena thing. I personally think we could have won Vietnam. Not that it's, something that we should toot our horns about, but you can't have politicians running military missions. They don't know what the hell they're doing. You kids are so far removed from it, but I know a lot of people like Frank Church, and Frank Church was a great guy, and Bethune was just walking on water, but he was an idiot. You can't involve yourself when you're in Congress with what's going on 8,000 miles away. They don't realize the impact they're having on us. When we were bombing the North, Nixon, regardless of what you think of him, he was on track. Bombed the bejabbers out of him. And it was having an impact. And then Congress and the Doves beat back the Hawks, and they quit bombing, and then we had a less than graceful exit. And by that point in time, I knew, having been there, so it was sad, but it was anticlimactic. It was, gee, I saw that coming, but, it's unfortunate.
Questions? Get them up. Nice and loud.
Do you still talk to people that you knew in Vietnam?
Did I what?
You still talk to people who you met?
When I came back summer '71, met this guy, he had a brand new Le Mans. I'm thinking, we're traveling style. I had all these places, Salt Lake, Wisconsin, Kansas, all these places picked out where my buds were, right? So we took the cross-country trip, living large. guy that owned Lamont, I swear to God, he almost got us in a fight every town we went to. He was just a giant D-bag. I didn't know him. Someone just hooked me up with him, and I found out he had a brand new car, and I said, yeah, I'm on board. So I traveled all the way to New York City and wrote letters with some people. But then after a while, when it all settles in, your only commonality is combat. So that's not enough. I mean, that's not a good reason. So no, I don't. There's a couple of guys I think about. Vietnam was like yesterday. You don't forget it. I mean, it's with you always. And that's not a bad thing. It's not being consumed. It's just accepting reality. But no, I don't keep contact. I mean, God, you remember that time we were in the bush and you had a snake? I mean, what are you going to, I mean, you have to have more in common than that to, I don't know, there's some, especially World War II guys, I mean, they like getting together, but that's just not my bag. I don't do that stuff.
Questions?
Did you pick up any
Louder.
local like skills overseas? Like when you were with the native people, did you pick up like any new talents or skills while you're in Vietnam? Yeah, like playing like a such an instrument or
Playing
new
guitar
language,
or
a new language or something.
Macrame?
I brought back some of these big old bonsai pipes. I don't know if that'd be a skill.
Something.
I should donate that to the history class. I mean, these are, they're like 6 feet long. I mean, just trying to take it in gets you stoned without it. No, you really don't have time for that. You know, I mean, if you had a rear job, you're doing that, but, you know, I can't really learn to do anything, 'cause you don't have time. Because your missions might be every day, so no, I don't learn any skills.
There's a great book called The Things
Appreciate
They
it.
Carry, and I gave it to you a few years ago, so tell them what you carry on a normal day in Vietnam when you were out hunting.
If you're a point man, you didn't get to have to carry, I carried a lot of water. So I used dehydrated food. I had a friend scored dehydrated food. It's what you need to survive. Other guys would have to carry ammunition for the 60, claymores and stuff. So it's just whatever you need to sustain life when you're in the bush. The longest I was in the bush was probably Cambodia, 40 days, 49. That sucked. You know, I mean, you're hurting for water, you're hurting for supplies.
What weapons and how much weight?
Okay, I carried an M16, sawed-off shotgun, not at the same time. I had a pair of quick-draw 45s. And as a point man, I probably carried less weight, but I did more work. We were in the Central Highlands, triple canopy, right? So it's a bush within a bush within a bush. Well, you don't go on the trails because that's their turf, right? So I'd have to cut a trail. So you're looking for them, you're looking for booby traps, and you're swinging a machete. So the trade-off is I didn't have to carry as much weight other than what I wanted to carry personally. So, for the most part, M16. I carried 7 bandoliers, 7 clips to a bandolier. I was never going to run out of bullets. That's one thing that was never going to happen. So.
What was the atmosphere of the United States when you came back?
You know, Seattle, God, it was the strangest thing. Seattle was a cool town in '69. When I came back in '71, I swear to God, and I'm far from homophobic, but it turned to one great big gay place. So those people didn't care. You know, that wasn't their bag. And coming back to Boise, people didn't know really what Vietnam was. I mean, we didn't have all these progressive, free-loving, hippie-type kind. And I had long hair. I have nothing against them. I love those people. But it wasn't an issue. The only issue I had was on a flight from Seattle to Boise, this guy was kind of flipping off, a businessman. And I had long hair, longer than buckwheat over here, right? And he had no idea who I was, so he started, and he's the only guy I met that was starting to say stuff, you know, about worthless soldiers and crack. It's fine, I just said it, you know. He asked me where I was coming from, and I said, well, I'm coming from Seattle, to my folks. Where were you before Seattle? And I thought, you know what, okay. I said, I just came back from Vietnam. So he kind of just looked at me, and I said, you know, you should really be careful. I mean, you're probably lucky it's me. You should watch what you say, because you know what you're talking about. Because we were fed this line that when we first came back, we could kill somebody and get away with it, because we could blame it on the war. I doubt it's true, but it sounded good.
A freebie-like thing, or what?
Yeah, well, then you get a free pass. Mulligan.
Is it hard to like transition back? Like, did you find normal life boring or anything?
No, you know, 14 months, some things have changed, but, you know, I spent a good portion of my time in Vietnam preparing myself mentally. I mean, really, even when you're out, I mean, you can multitask. You know, your mind can go down two highways. So I was just glad to be back, and I probably spent as much energy not being adversely affected, probably more so than most people. And I wasn't gonna let it get me down. So no, I was ready for it.
Which song or band do you think best symbolized the Vietnam era?
Iron Butterfly, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. Okay, well.
I can find it.
Iron Butterfly.
Yeah, you guys know that's a to me that I mean that was a great generation of music. I mean, yeah. All things considered, I love the music there. But In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, Iron Butterfly, what a song. I mean, that's one of the things that I used to maintain my mental stability was music. It's just kind of a soothing, kind of takes it away. Good thing. Yeah, you get that on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Hold up.
any questions?
What was your favorite kind of food that you tried?
Oh,
In Vietnam.
Yeah.
yeah. Water buffalo, kind of a little tangy, got a little bite. No, you know, I don't know what it would be called.
Like,
Well, it was, I mean, just the way they use a lot of fish oils, they did, which are really, really good for cooking. This gal I met, just friends. Shut up. She cooked for me a few times, because, you know, you get time off, and she made some dishes that were just, I mean, there was one kind of like an entree, there was a soup kind of a deal. It was just, I mean, just really good food. But the name of it, Chang Yang Wan. I have no idea.
Did you get to celebrate Vietnamese New Year's when you were in Vietnam?
No.
How important do you think it is to stay focused on kind of keeping yourself sane during?
Oh, forget combat, but it applies to everyday life. I mean, you got to keep, you got to keep the straight path in front of you. So, but in combat, it's life or death. You can make the difference of you being, a guy with two arms or one arm. I mean, some of it's inevitable. Some of you don't have any control over. I don't care if you're the most focused person on the planet. If somebody tags you, you're it. I mean, but there's a lot of things you can do to avoid being tagged. So just, don't be stupid. Just pay attention. Can never assume anything. You treat each day like it's the first day. And that's how I went into combat. Every day was the first day. And
You've said this many times that it was the worst time of your life and the greatest time of your life at the same time. How do you explain it?
The worst time of my life is obvious because it's combat. I mean, you're seeing guys die, maimed. I mean, it's just, nasty stuff. But there's nothing like it. I mean, it's the greatest emotional experience of my life. Other than meeting Dave. I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, I don't care if you play sports or whatever. There's no adrenaline rush that can compare to being in combat for me. It's like supercharged 100 times over. It's like, I always used to tell these, it's like reaching up and touching the face of God and coming back alive. I mean, it's a trip. I have a lot of friends, my age group within 10 years that, I wish I'd have been there. And I said, no, you don't. You really don't. I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I tell them that there's no experience like it, but it's not an experience you want to experience. You really don't. Because you never know how it's going to turn out. It may not work out so good. It could suck.
Couple more questions, nice and loud. Who hasn't asked one?
Oh, go ahead.
When you were in Vietnam, kind of what was your guys' opinion of like the protesters in the U.S. and like all the anti-war movement things?
That was all part of my process. You know, I didn't hate them. I didn't blame them. I mean, that was their opinion. I mean, they're entitled to it. Ignorance is bliss. And so my thought was they were just very blissful. You know, they really didn't understand. But I appreciated the fact that they felt that way. I could understand it. And it's really a hard thing to relate, but I mean, if you could have been there and seen the plight of those people, it might have changed some minds. But no animosity ever. Never. In fact, we were talking about the last class. Joan Baez, country singer, my generation, forget you kids. She was in Idaho Falls, I think, doing a concert. And that's another thing I can't wrap my head around is I think it's part of my buffer to keep from getting overwhelmed by Vietnam. You see them around town, guys in vests and hats with all this crap on it, and I was in Timbuktu and served with the 5th. Anyway, they protested her. Really? It's 40 years ago, 45 years ago. Get over it. Geez, who cares what she said? Anyway, she went out and met with them. And they had signs up, baby killers, some crap. And even though I was in combat and I was a vet, I'd have gone after them. I mean, we're literally, I'd have told, the old fools to step off. I mean, just, come on, give it a rest. I understood. I think it didn't matter to me. Didn't affect me at all. So.
Thanks, Ed.